Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of Favored Allies. We're talking here the Shattered Kingdom campaign. The crew has just rolled into Bastion, and so for a quick recap, um, I'm going to throw it to Patty slash Derek to give us a quick recap of what happened in season. I'm joking. So for a quick recap of what happened in
Put me in,
season
coach.
one, the crew, Embers only, met in a small outlying barony of the far reaches of the north, the frozen north. The cashier barony had some issue with food in the previous year. They were the heavy producers of food, and for some reason, that food was not well produced in the past year. Additionally, there was some strange castle, keep, or building that had been rumored to have risen from the swamp. Our crew met up, investigated what exactly was going on, and it seemed that there was some sort of cult activity that was impacting the local farms and the local food and the crops that fed most of the kingdom of Lakshina. Somehow connected to this was a keep long lost to the swamps below. After shutting down most of the cult activities that were going on, investigating this keep, and leaving the town, we'll say, under new management, the crew heads back to the major city of Bastion. Well, if the North has a crown jewel, it is Bastion. This frozen, walled city sitting high above the plain known as Uthel's Stand. As you head into the frozen north, all of you have been traveling for several days through Widow's Pass and the open plains here in the frozen north. As you approach on this late spring morning, the city of Bastion, set into the mountains ahead of you. You can see that there's a small valley, almost as though was in a time long past, maybe a landslide, where part of the mountain had actually broken down and created a strange cleft. Within that cleft, you can see down at the base of the mountain, Lower Bastion, as those of you from around here would know it. Three concentric walls separate off sections of the city. From the outside here in Uthelsstand, you can see the open ward, sometimes referred to as the first melt. These are small homesteads and farms where folks who maybe don't want to deal with the rigid structure of life in Bastion like to live close to the safety, but outside the bounds of having to live in, for example, communal housing and common family apartments, as is common within the city. There's also some livery stables that you can see as you pass by as you approach the great gates of Bastion. And you can just see some flat rooftops peeking over this outer wall of the residential outer ward of what most of you would think of as Lower Bastion proper. Behind this, you can see going up into this cleft, there's a switchback path that makes its way up the mountain above the snow line, where you can see the greater frozen walls of what some refer to as simply Bastion, but those who live around here refer to as Upper Bastion, where the seat of power sits, separate and looking down upon the city. Now that you've finally made your way to Bastion and to a major city, what's your first order of business, Embers Only?
Probably following the priest.
Well, I was going to say I can, I should certainly be able to get us all housing up at the church if people are okay with staying at the church. Otherwise, I think we have Gertrude with us, right? So I would probably recommend we put her at the stables, which I think we can find here in Lower Bastion, if I'm not mistaken.
Both of those are better than where I currently live.
You're aware Tosha, and also Derek. If you are simply putting up a horse for stable, the livery outside of the outer wall is typically the standard place for that. Although, if you wanted to use, for example, stables that are meant for perhaps dignitaries from other families and other areas, those do exist in Upper Bastion if you wanted to give Gertrude, the treatment. But otherwise, if you want to keep it simple, livery stables right out front.
I mean, I've always had excellent service at the livery stable, so I don't see why we shouldn't keep her there.
Simple enough. You head over to the livery stables. Tosha, you kind of step forward, bringing Gertrude before the person running the stable, who kind of looks up and kind of notes some travelers and then makes note of your attire and realizes who you are. And yes, you, just like always, you are getting really great service, High Priest, at the livery stables of the city.
Yeah, what can I say? I mean, the service at Bastion I've always found second to none, really.
Wonder why.
But you're able to get your cart and your horse set up and make your way into the city.
Yeah, so would folks like to stay at the church, or I don't know much about inns or any other lodging here, but if you didn't want to stay there, I suppose that could also be an option. I should need to probably speak with Kamishaba about, give my report of what we saw in Kashir and what happened, and maybe if any of you want to, help tell the story of what we saw. Anything else that you all want to do?
I mean, I'd be grateful for a place to stay. I don't know that you want me talking to anybody.
If
But
you're
I,
fine with
you know,
3.5-foot roofs, you can stay with my fam. It's really the biggest issue.
Considering my specific relationship to your family and everything else going on here, maybe it's a good idea to have me not there when you go and talk to your parent.
That's fine.
I mean, I'm happy to go. Reports are a third of my job, so
We could all go and stand outside and just be there awkwardly with the guards, just hanging out, waiting for you to get out.
I mean, I'm happy to go and tell, my side of my view of things, of all of our journeys. I'm happy to give reports.
Yeah, I mean, I'd pay to see that. I mean, I'd be willing to support that.
Yeah, but I mean, I did want to ask you specifically, Mama. I am gonna tell, the Bride of the Asher what happened. I may be able to offer some kind of recommendation for what we do moving forward with the town. The typical way it would be dealt with is there'd be a new family that would be appointed to run the town, in place of, the former family that was there. But if there's another idea, I know you spoke with the people there the most, so if there's a way that you would recommend, I'd be willing to tell Kamishaba that. I can't guarantee that she'll do it, but she might.
Well, that last family sure was quite a muck up. So, we gotta, in terms of the people, like, if y'all install God knows who in, pardons Asher sleep, you know, here's the universe knows, but they need they need to be able to work as a community to help the community. I'm a little worried that some of them are too money focused to keep the place special. unfruitful. So
And
yeah, I don't know that
absence
I'd
of
go
enough people to make your friend happy.
our friend. Yes. So it they I don't want them to be dragged back in terms of they're finally allowing non-elf folk to own things or have their business space, and that's the right direction for them now.
What do you think? How much about Farron? It was Farron, right? How much about Farron are you comfortable having told to Kamishava? Because I
I'm
have no
not.
idea. Okay, yeah, that explains a lot.
I'm
In
not.
that case, what is what's the justification for it not being developed?
Saving space in terms of more area, more food that can be provided outsourced. If you overdevelop the area, it cuts down on the production, so to speak.
Okay. Sounds reasonable.
Especially
Hell,
seeing as
I don't
certain
know.
people's farms are no longer going to be as prosperous as they previously were.
Yeah.
We never did tell him about crop rotation.
We can tell the new
I'll send a
person
letter.
who
I'll
goes
send a
there.
letter.
Yeah.
I'll send a letter.
Would that be something like how does that work for Kamishava? Like, if you need to pick a new person, is it going to be a purely political decision where it's about who currently has? Oh no, I'm asking in character. Is this something where Kamishava is likely to send someone who's just gonna be in it because they support Kamishava and their own interests, or would it be possible to be like, oh, this person is someone who's a noted scholar of agriculture or whatever, and this area needs that kind of thing?
Would I know, Nate, how that like succession would work out or be chosen?
You've seen on a much smaller scale how folks have gotten land, control of land in the region from Kamishava. Generally speaking, there is an aspect of fealty. If Kamishava doesn't trust that they're going to do what they need to do for the church, then they're not going to get the position. But also, there's a question of how useful someone is. Living in the frozen north and kind of in the context that Bastion and the Crast lands kind of live in, you can't have someone who's ineffectual at their job unless there are really extenuating circumstances. Like, I don't know, the land produces extremely well and nobody really knows why, and it just keeps happening while these people are in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, until they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Send another letter to Devlin Till. By the way, while you're sorting out crop rotation, make sure everybody else does it. Put together a council. And then there's bandits on the road I need you to get a hold of. They'll kill whoever they send from Bastion. And then you guys can just govern yourselves.
That would be an interesting way to do it.
It would solve the problem.
You're
And I'm
wrong.
not saying I've got a checklist here. But I'm Derek and I always have a checklist. Now, pick toes. I'll work on that one now.
Okay.
I thought you were working on your new hand.
Well, that's why I'm picking my toes. Like, oh, fingers, right? Fingers, not. Thank you. I've been
Can you still use that hand? Like, it's not like clenched tightly, perfect. It's like completely useless. It's that like it's just got the thing on it.
I'm picturing right now kind of like one of those things they give old people to get cereal off of high, like shelves.
Oh, I need one of those.
I was gonna say, on this topic, is there anything about the story or things you saw that you do not want me to tell Kamishava about. I don't want to lie to her, and obviously her main question is about the crops and what happened to that, so I thought it was important for her to know about the cult and the things we saw related to that. That's what I was going to share, and I was going to recommend that, the family be replaced, who was ruling Kashir, the barony, initially. But outside of that, does anyone have any, I definitely won't mention anything about you all that you don't want me to share or bring up, but anything else.
How much money do you have on you?
I don't have any money on me. I gave it all to Derek.
Okay. Derek, can you give me 1 copper piece in replace of our friend here? Let's see if I can, because
in replace of what?
In Antosha's place.
Oh, I understand what you're saying now.
There's a reason for this.
I thought you wanted me to like put her.
No, I need 1 copper piece.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Now, if it comes up and you don't want to lie to Kamishava, I am some mercenary, technically true, from the south who had come up, and you have paid me. And I just put the copper piece in my pocket.
And then I'm just going to say, there's other things we have to talk about with regards to the ritual and things that are happening, but I don't see any reason why she needs to know anything about you or anything new about your family that she doesn't already think. So that wasn't something I was planning to.
Oh no, this is
just
about. In case. You never know when some cleric's going to cast, I don't know, Zone of Truth, command you to confess and tell them stuff. And this way you can absolutely tell the truth. You have paid me to be here. Put you in a
cage. Cast heat metal.
We should have just knocked that guy out so he couldn't take himself out, but oh well. No, I mean, like, yeah, at least now you can honestly say you have paid me to be here. So.
In that case here, I'll scribe out on like a sheet, and I'll give because I technically paid. I'll give it just a sheet of paper. It just says "working for me." Just a traditional form. Asks you to put your name, information, that kind of stuff. It's a W for me if you for shorthand, that kind of thing. Paperwork's all in line. Stamp it. Unscrew my hand. Stamp it. Screw back on.
So,
To the
church. How do you feel about sharing any kind of information about the castle that we went through?
Well, I suppose the exact knowledge pertaining to our family lineage could be kept quiet, but the fact that it was an elven castle is probably important for its original purpose and why it was chosen. But other than it was a significant site they chose to sully, I suppose it's not super important that Kamishava knows much else, nor that we have the items we have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my book's my business.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything we should do while you're meeting with Kamishava? I don't know if anybody has shopping they need to get done. I mean, we've got some wolf pelts if we wanted to try to sell those. I've got like a bunch of gems in a bag.
Well, didn't Tosha want one of us at least to go?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to go.
Yeah, to clarify, no one else has to go to report. I just wanted to leave the option open in case someone did want to be there.
Like I said, I'll go. I just don't know that y'all want me to.
How much do we put down that Mama punches Kamishava in the face?
I haven't punched someone in 200 years.
How much do we put down that Mama wants to punch Kamishava in the face?
I actually think they might get along.
That's
depending on the topic
scary.
that they talk about. I mean,
I'm very
Kamishava
likable.
likes people that are straightforward
Mhm.
and not, lying, manipulating, begging, like behaviors like that. So, I mean,
Mhm.
they would either probably get into a fight or like each other. One of the two options.
Those tend to be it. Yeah.
Who would have sent me initially on like my would have like who am I reporting to now that like this is done? Because I guess my shtick was like, hey, go with Tosha, make sure everything's kosher.
Go with
And
Tosha, make sure everything's kosher, and get out of town for a little bit.
yeah,
Was
but like, would that
specific.
be? Would I report back to like Sasha,
Sasha.
or would this
You
be
would
like
you would
okay?
report back to Sasha in the Trades and Crafts ward in the inner circle.
All right, then I can take care of that while they're doing that then.
And Tosha and Derek, it's about 4 hours travel one way to Upper Bastion from Lower Bastion. So if you are splitting the party, you are quite a distance from each other. Just FYI.
Can I just give all the? Can I write down what happened and just put it in an envelope?
Absolutely, you could just drop it off at his desk.
Which is an Upper Bastion?
No, Sasha's desk's in Lower Bastion.
Oh, so we could drop it off on the way up, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a handful of folks that work in the Engineers Guild that are primarily desk workers. The person who manages you, Sasha, is one of those folks.
Because I did take notes, and I was just going to pass those off. Day 1, Sergeant Marina Carvey, dead. Private False, dead. Private Tresca, dead. It's a rough start to the campaign. An itinerary of all of my material components that I need to be reimbursed for.
So we also have like 500 pounds of wolf meat.
You
Still?
sure do?
Yeah, because we just killed them right on the way up here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like 3 days ago.
Yeah. So anything we haven't eaten is because like where I'm from, you could just sell it.
Yeah.
Is that because are we technically in the winter right now? Like it's considered
Nope,
winter.
late spring.
No, late spring.
Did
Yes.
because I don't remember. Did somebody have like uh my brain is completely not here at the moment. There was some spell. It's like
Purify
preserve.
food and drink or something like that.
It was that or like preserve corpse. I don't remember the name of it. Off the top
Gentle
of my head, sorry.
repose.
Thank you. Yeah, something to keep the meat from rotting. I don't remember if we did
Yeah,
that.
I think we're doing purified food and drink, but
Okay.
it's kept. It's kept.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, Derek and Tosha, you can't really just go hawking the meat on the street. Selling food here is very illegal, but you could sell it to the church who distributes food. That's basically the only way you could legally sell it.
Hit the church then.
Yeah.
And you could
Well-
any of the churches that are here in Lower Bastion, you don't need to lug 500 pounds of food up to Upper Bastion.
That was going to be my question.
God damn.
If we're dropping off a letter with yours, we could probably drop it off with the Church of Gond.
Let's do it.
No,
Wait, the food?
it's a church, right? Like, or does it have to be a Church of the Asher?
It has to be the Church of the Asher, is my
Okay.
understanding, because there's an arm of that church that runs like the services in the city, including like the food bank, basically where everyone goes. So
Please tell me that it is a combination Church of the Asher, Church of Gond, like a Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. Like you go in and it just branches off into the two separate sections.
Get whatever you need. It's just efficient.
Yeah.
I guess you'll see. What's our first step here?
Gond, right? Drop off letter. Go from there.
All right. So you are passing from the outer wall through this outermost circle of Lower Bastion. This is primarily residential, home, comforting, safe for some of you. For others, it might seem a little cold The buildings themselves are large and primarily square rectangular. Very few embellishments survive the wind and the ice of the north, and to keep these quite stable and quite sturdy, the facades of most of these, especially the facade that faces out towards the outer wall in Uthal Stand, very, very few windows, and those that do exist are very small. Just large, imposing stone facades. The second thing that sort of strikes you as you move through is there's a grand gate and a main walkway, street, thoroughfare. But it seems to zigzag and go around buildings. There's not one simple path that takes you through all of the circles of Bastion. You actually have to go in, take a left, walk several blocks, take a right, take a left, and zigzag while following the main roads through town. It seems like this outer part of the town is designed more like a maze than like your typical gridded town. And Derek, you're aware of this. Actually, you were hired to help design some of the things that they're thinking of adding down here, as it seems that slowing the passage through this outermost ward seems to be its secondary goal. It is slow and arduous to get through this ward. One of the many protections of the city. Also, constantly keeping the wind from just blowing through town and icing everything. When you first come in the widest part of the street, you can see there's a number of small taverns kind of lining the street level and building up 3 or 4 stories above them, small travelers' apartments, places that if you have business in Bastion and that if you are serving the city, you can stay. There's also a few small traders here that allow you to pick up. Again, they seem to be serving mostly people coming from the travelers' quarters rather than the citizens of Bastion proper. But there are a number of a number of these like large tenement buildings essentially line this place. The occasional food bank or other services provided by folks that you see in heavy gray robes, a light mix of furs across the shoulder, made up of what look to be many small creatures' furs sewn or strapped together, cheaply, quickly, but it seems to be relatively uniform. Tosha, Derek, you recognize these to be some of the civil servants of Bastion, the children of the Asher. As you pass through one large walkway heading towards the mid-wall, through what is a section of primarily family tenements as opposed to individuals, you see a number of children following behind one of these children of the Asher, and a bunch of human, a few goblin, and a few orc blooded children following this one who's dressed slightly differently. Same heavy robes, same patchwork furs, but they have a small cap that like comes down in the back and straps onto the head with a chin strap, and a small stick that sticks out forward with a flag on the front that has a little picture of a flame on it. A few minutes later, you see a similar person, but they have a flag on the front that has a picture of an anvil on it with children following them around. Derek, it's reminiscent of your childhood. These are what some folks refer to as the partridges, but these are the teachers of the children of the city of Bastion. They typically do a combination of kind of prepping folks for kind of existence in Bastion, learning the ways of the city and the people as they grow up, and also providing them with training into whatever field they're expected to go into. So you know that the flame tag suggests that these are perhaps children who will become members of the church. The anvil tag suggests that these are perhaps people that you're going to see working near you, Derek, in a few years, hopefully, because much longer than that, you're not going to see them. But you make your way past these partridges and the children that follow them into the midsection of the city. This is where the primary buildings for kind of the city services that require a lot more. That require more structure. This is where a lot of bureaucracy lives in this central region. The buildings are a little bit more spread out. Excuse me, and also a little bit taller here, especially as you get to the edges where this cleft from the mountainside meets the mountain that's still there, and the buildings actually use that as structural support and build up very heavily on the sides and kind of dip down to lower buildings towards the middle of the ward. Here you can see the same kind of tenement buildings with a little bit different structure to them. Still basic facades, slightly larger windows, as this area is primarily more protected from both the wind and the weather. And also a number of different churches. You can start to see here where we have several, every few blocks there is a Church of the Asher, as there need to be many to service every person in Bastion who is expected to at least pay lip service to the Asher. You also see a number of other small churches. A small church to Corellin, wherein it essentially looks as the Church of the Asher with a main door and main symbols of the Asher over the front, and then a small side door with the symbol of Corellin above it. This is actually a church to Corellin. Again, being in the city of Bastion, they cannot show Corellin being above the Asher. So as you kind of continue through, this ward is a bit less maze-like, and you can start to see some areas where there's the blocks are better set up, and you can even see some military service quarters and quarters for the children of the Asher, the primary city servants. Making your way through here, you find your way to the inner trades and crafts ward. This final wall opens up to much more spread out buildings. A line on one side, kind of lining the inner wall, are the smithies and other metal craftsmen. There's a building kind of central to them. Again, great symbols of the Asher up top, and then on either side, flanking, symbols of Gond and small doors that lead into the church proper. Derek, you actually know the large door doesn't even open. It's wooden, it's placed in front of the stone wall, and it's a facade. This great door to the Asher doesn't go anywhere. Only the side doors actually work.
It's a metaphor.
And so you know that going through here, the inside of the main first section of the building is the chapel proper for those who would like to worship Gond. There's typically a number of smiths who pass through here at different times of the day, but you know that you can pass through and head up some stairs that are immediately to the right to the offices on the upper floor.
Okay. I go up to the offices and look for an inbox.
You make your way up to the offices. There's just there's one office door, there's 4 desks, and you know that you can just drop your report letter off on Sasha's desk. As you enter the room and you look over to Sasha's desk, it's been cleared. There's no anything there. There's none of the paperwork that he would typically be doing. There's not a name tag as there previously was, and it looks like the desk itself has been completely emptied.
Am I familiar with any others that are currently sitting at desks in this area?
There's only one other. There's only one other person who's in this office, and it's actually Sasha's boss. The Garrus Vulcan is sitting scribbling away at some paperwork.
Oh, thank God for that. I'm gonna scratch out Sasha's name on the front, and then I'll put Vulcan's name. And I'll go over to his desk and look for his inbox.
Yeah, there's just a little wooden box.
Initially addressed for Sasha. This is the Entosha Guardian deployment. Job done. Put that stack of papers in there.
Garrus is one of the few humans working within the inner trades and crafts ward. Kind of looks down. This was Sasha's order?
Yep.
Not that it much matters. Sure, I'll take it.
Is he fired?
Strictly speaking, I would have liked to keep him. He was good at his job.
I'll take your word for it. I've one written down sentence about this person. Why?
How he looks down at the note or the report and your role?
Correct. It's Mr. Roll.
The things that Sasha asked you to do in order to fix our problems last winter were beyond what some could stomach elsewhere in Bastion. He has been reassigned.
Well, they weren't supposed to eat it. Look, roundabouts are highly underutilized in Bastion, and quite frankly, if one roundabout can get the job done, 2 roundabouts can get it done twice as fast, and 7 roundabouts can get it done 7 times as fast.
This is not about the figure 835 that you have going on in the residential commons.
Oh, what's this in reference to?
He kind of shudders, and we all know that. Look, we know that Sasha asked you to bring the orphans to be turned to food. Look,
yes, this was his idea.
I don't know. I don't know why he thought that was the solution. I don't know why he thought that was the solution. But it was a solution. Can't say it was a good one. As it stands, someone with more clout than I'll ever have caught wind of it, didn't take too kindly to it. I want to thank you for your service. As dark as that was, I understand how it can be when a superior orders you to do something. I hope to see you with that same sort of, well, commitment in your future endeavors.
Your job is safe in my hands.
If you'd like to speak with Sasha, I believe he's still being kept up in Upper Bastion before being sent out to the wall that walks.
Oh, I don't think that's a good idea. So we're clear. This paperwork is fine to leave here to constitute the end of my previous job.
Yes.
People who were hungry 2 months ago are no longer hungry. We have less orphans to take care of, and everyone's happy with the figure 835?
Let's put a pin in that last one.
Okay. Well, thank you. Where is he being held, Sasha?
There's the wall that walks recruits. There's a an area in Upper Bastion. I don't know if you've ever been up there, but
I have not.
next to the livery, they have some cages for folks who go unwillingly, and they have open dorms for those who go willingly. He's currently staying in a dorm. You'd be fine to see him if you'd like.
Righto. Bye.
He just sweeps a hand and goes back to his paperwork.
Sweeps a hand. Look, I've been living with Mama for the last 2 months. So I'm like, yeah, bye. And I lift up my metallic arm awkwardly, still trying to figure it out. Accidentally knock his inkwell all over his paperwork. Oh no! Oh, cool. I'm sorry. I'll sort that out. Do you want me to? I best not. Yeah, all right. Well, cheers, Garrus. Wait, Garrus or Gallus? L or R?
Garis, Garrus.
Thanks. I'll sort that out. You have a nice day. Plod.
Right. You all see Derek come out the front of the Temple of Gond.
Go over to Mama. Being a dick is liberating.
Well, yeah. But how's your job?
I have a job. Yeah, my job's fine. My boss's job is in peril. He's being sent to the wall that walks.
That doesn't sound good.
If it's literal, it's an impressive feat of engineering. Probably not very efficient as a wall, though. But yeah, no, it looks like. So for those who didn't know, we had a bit of a food. We do know we have a bit of a food shortage here in Bastion. The solution appeared to us in the form of aid from a lovely young lady who lives out in the woods. Quite a bit of a workforce. Sorted out. Tons of sausages. Nobody, starved to death. But you know how bureaucracy is. Certain clauses weren't checked. Certain people didn't sign their paperwork. Liability waivers, that kind of a thing. And it seems that Sasha's being sent to the wall that walks. He's up next to the livery in a dorm. But my job's safe.
Didn't you tell us that you fed the city orphans?
Well, yeah, they weren't doing anything, were they?
Okay, all right.
And not the whole city. Don't be ridiculous. We didn't have thousands of orphans. Like 80 tops.
I mean, you can always make more.
Yeah, it's not hard. It's like a free source of meat. What would for example, right? Tosha, say you had a kid, like you happen to have a kid, right? Do you want it? Or does that seem like a pain in the ass? Your face is telling 1,000 stories. It's a pain in the ass, right? What if I could get rid of that and also
But
feed people who
most of the church, the clergy are either the children of former clergy or orphans. They
Well, so
can
now there's
help
less
defend
competition.
Bastion and provide food services.
That's what I did. They provided food services.
Oh my God.
More sustainable food services.
Well, I'm working on that, but it turns out my arm didn't taste very good, so I don't know if we're gonna be able to do it piecemeal in the future. Look, you go to delivery, what do they ask you? Do you want a wing or a thigh? Right? It's the same thing. Do you want an arm or a leg? I don't see what the problem is, right? With goblins, we eat each other all the time. It's a good source of protein.
Well,
I
hopefully
whispered
with things restored and cashier, we won't need to resort to such things. But
I whispered to Callie, remind me to make sure that I do the cooking as we travel.
Do we want to maybe hold on to that wolf meat? Just,
Well, if
We
the
have
alternative is orphans, then we need to give them this meat right now.
Yeah.
Listen, all living things are sacred. It's no different giving them the small, like, children of wolves as opposed to the small children of, you know, some dick who makes pottery in the 3rd district.
Let's go sell the meat so that we can stop having this conversation. I'm a mother several times over, both through adoption and other means. So I'm gonna have a drink.
No, all your kids are safe. All your kids have a mum. You know, someone that'll miss them.
They do now.
The pottery guy, he named his kid Country. Like that, you're just setting them up for a whole life of pain and misery. I'm solving many problems for many people here. Ones they didn't even know they know.
Talia just sort of like starts looking around, be like, "Does someone sell salt? We could salt some of this and keep it for ourselves." And just like what, just disconnecting.
Mama's like, Carly, wait up.
Is Amada's proposal just like a holy text of the Gone Church? Is that just like part of it and you never realized what it was about? Or
If you know anything of history, you know that food shortages are the #1 way to find civil unrest. I saved the city.
Soylent Green is a viable business model. That's what they.
Wow.
All right.
So across from this area, you can see where several of the there's a large church to the Asher, connected to what Derek and Tosha, you know to be some of the largest food stores in the area. And if you were to exchange any meat or other goods similar with the church, this would be the place to do it, unless you feel like carrying it up to the upper bastion.
No.
Always an option, you know.
We'll sell it here.
Tosha, I'm going to assume that you take point on this conversation with the church.
Yeah, definitely.
Simple enough. There's a basic exchange rate. You know that you can get about 200 gold for 500 pounds of meat. It's set by Upper Bastion and the Council of the Elders, the Ashen Elders. So there's not really any haggling to be done.
Are we keeping any?
Great. Yeah, so that's. Oh, do we want to sell all of it, or are we keeping some back?
Would they exchange us like the things that we would need to like cure the meat if we are going to keep some of it? It's like obviously,
salt.
yeah.
Yeah.
People use other stuff too, but yeah.
I assume, do they have like a grocery here, along with this in the headquarters, or like a soup kitchen down at this level where we could maybe get some salt in exchange for like, would you exchange ration tickets for that, or would it be money?
You can exchange ration tickets or money for salt. It's a mineral more than it's a food. You can't sustain yourself on it. And there are mines near here. You're not hurting for salt. So you could exchange either. You could also forego if you wanted to. I don't know how much you want to keep back. But if you wanted to forego some of the pay for an additional amount of salt, you could get like a small hogshead of salt for like 10 gold.
All right. So how much do we want to keep back?
Just probably like a week's worth. Like whatever's kind of looking at the pieces between Mama and myself, we can probably determine what would be the like easiest pieces to cure for traveling, like
Yeah.
sustainability, like jerky and stuff. And just yeah, 'cause we don't know how long we're gonna be here, right? Basically.
So you want to keep back about 70 pounds?
Oh, that seems like a lot. But But I guess if it
A lot of
turns to
it's
jerky, it gets
water.
lighter, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 50.
50, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, if you keep back 50 pounds, there is an exact exchange, and I didn't look it up. I just gave you a number. So if you keep back 50 pounds, you're going to end up
180?
paying. Yeah.
Okay, 180, and that's including the salt exchange thing as well, right?
They say so. They kind of throw it in. They don't look to you or wink at you or anything. You don't think anything of it. Derek, you've never had them throw something in for you. This is not how the Church of the Asher operates.
That's what, 45 gold each?
Solving racism in one city at a time, I guess.
Nate, can I ask a quick question?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. What you need?
You can say no. That's fine. We're traveling with a, I hope not well-known cannibal, and a
I didn't eat the meat.
or the inventor of Soylent Green, and the child of the Asher. Are we being followed? Is there anybody watching us as we're going through the city? Are there any eyes on us at all? Is there any way I can look for that?
Yeah, go ahead and give me a perception check as you're going through.
Okay. We will use this die. Yeah. 15.
15. I mean, easily enough, there's a lot of eyes on you. No one really seems to be looking at Derek. There's a number of other goblins in town. But Tosha garners attention everywhere they go. With a 15, you don't notice anybody tailing you or following you. But it might, like, Tosha's obviously bringing attention to themselves and by extension the group. So that's probably giving you a bit of unease in this strange town, given your profession. But nobody seems to be tailing you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and I'll give the salt to Callie for any preparation of the rest of the meat that we're keeping.
Thank you.
She's salty.
Yeah.
Just so that for like note taking stuff, is somebody tracking like stuff we put in the cart in terms of hogsheads of salt, wolf pelts, that kind of stuff?
Oh, did we need to sell the wolf pelts there?
If we want to, or we could use them, but
That's a place that you could also exchange the wolf pelts if you wanted to. That they would then. Wolf pelts you can actually trade and sell yourself, or you can trade them to the church, who will meet them out to whoever needs them. Tosha, if you considered yourself as gaining those wolf pelts, they belong to the church. But if this is a party thing, then yeah, you could sell them to the church.
Yeah, I mean, considering I probably wasn't the one who killed the wolves or skinned them, I'll say that it's a party thing. But I would be fine with, giving or exchanging them to the church.
Finding an exchange seems to be a good idea.
All right, I will also take point on selling the wolf pelts.
As I recall, these are complete winter wolf pelts, and it is 2 of them. So you are able to sell those to the church for 75 gold apiece.
Woo woo.
Wow.
And Tosha, you probably already know these are going to end up in Upper Bastion. These are this type of pelt of this quality, of this size, undamaged, is probably going to go into some of the priestly garbs.
150 divided by 5.
All right, so that should be
30.
30 gold apiece from
Yep.
the wolf pelts.
Do they also collect gems here, or do we need to go find a different store?
Maybe we should wait till Upper Bastion to see about that.
Sure.
Mm.
Hold on to the obsidian ones for me.
Oh, I'm not getting rid of the obsidian. I figured that might come in handy. No, I'm talking about like
Material
the.
components.
I'm talking about the
garnets.
non-magical gem eyes, like we got from the creepy dungeon, and we got some garnets. I think.
I'll use if we. I mean, if we're just trying to make money, gems are an easier way to hold on to money. To be perfectly
Sure.
honest.
We can keep that. We don't have. I have the amount of money that the gems are worth in my thing in terms of the garnets. I don't have that for the eyes. We never got those like appraised or anything. So
Yeah.
Again, material.
worry about it later.
Yeah, and also, Alar, you're not a trader by any means, but some of the prices that you're getting for some of these, while 75 for a single pelt is a lot, given the size and quality of that pelt, you would expect it to be more than double that in a city like Lube. The economy here, the gold movement is way different than it is where you come from. So that is probably something that you note as you think about, should we sell our gems here? All right.
Well, we did what I wanted to do today.
Do we see any like actual stores as we're like going down or like moving on up into Upper Bastion to get into that area?
Here in the trades and crafts, you don't while you see a bunch of smithies, and some of them have a few of them have counters set up, but you don't notice any that have like a proper like just like a proper selling place. Like people are going up to the smithy or the smiths inside the smithy, talking to them and walking away. You don't see any gold changing hands. For being the trade center, you're really not seeing what you consider to be trade. You did see some more traditional like general stores and things like that by the very entrance to the city, in the outer kind of residential common ward, by the travelers' apartments.
In the interest of time, can we say that I ducked into one of them and got alchemist supplies?
Yeah, go for it.
Thanks.
Regular price.
Yep.
All right. And the next step is Upper Bastion, correct? So you approach the back wall, what is known to folks who live here as the final wall. This is a maybe 10 foot taller than the other walls of Bastion, and whereas those are curved, making the sort of like concentric circles coming out, this is generally straight at the narrowest point of where the mountains have this like cleft coming down. And standing on either side of the wall, you see in heavy black robes that don't quite conceal some sort of heavy armor, standing on either side of these great doors. One orc and one elf, both wielding large swords, not within their scabbards, just out and at the ready. Their skin appears to have been powdered with some sort of material so that they sort of have this look of death, where the skin tone is incredibly, incredibly pale, almost sickly. And you can see carved into the right side of each of their faces small runes going down. Tosha and Derek, you know these to be among the Pale Ritualists. These are the holy protectors of the city of Bastion. The gates at the final wall are currently open. They do not seem to regard you as you pass through. Passing in, you go forward on a path maybe 10 feet wide, about 20 feet before the path takes a sharp turn to the right and starts up the switchback trail that bounces back and forth on the way up to Upper Bastion. Preparing yourself for about 2 hours of travel at a gentle, steady pace heading up. Once you get up a couple hundred feet, you can kind of see, looking out from the steps that you're going through, or the path that you follow towards Upper Bastion, out into Uthal Stand. It feels almost as though you could see forever, if not for the far mountains across the flatlands that make up this part of the frozen north. Derek, you can make out the forest where Big Guts goblins to typically be staying when they're not in the city for the winter. You can see the low-lying fens where water seems to collect after the rain or after the snow melt. To the north of Uthal Stand, what is known as the Icy Plain during deep winter. And it's one of the few times of year that the view is truly beautiful, as you can see a great deal of green, and most of the melt has happened, and some of the mud has actually dried up. But you continue on upwards, away from the green, and away from the comfort, as it rapidly becomes cool, making your way up the mountain. 400 feet, 500 feet, 1,000 feet. After about 2 hours, you are most of the way there. But Tosha, you know that the hard part is just coming. As you approach what's known as the Path of the Patient, you're actually at the base of the outer wall of Upper Bastion, still coated in ice, ever coated in ice. Most of you have put on your heavy cloaks or whatever you have to kind of help you against the cold, as it has dropped below freezing and the winds have picked up. And as you approach this lower part of the outer wall of Upper Bastion, you can see where the ice has sheeted across. It continues down onto the path and over the cliff, making a still waterfall that ever drips. Whenever it gets cool enough to melt, you can see that it has become incredibly slick and smooth. But every night, it will always refreeze if it were ever to thaw during the day. This ice, some of it has been here probably for centuries. And as you look, it looks to be nearly a mile from the end that you're at to the far end. And the first of you to go and take a step, Tosha, I assume you are leading. The others notice that Tosha radically changes gait. Tosha goes from walking with a purpose, the tall stride of an orc, to very careful, very measured, very short steps. It will take you the better part of an hour to cross this 1 mile of sheer ice on this cliff, safely. Unless anybody's in more of a hurry than that.
Nope.
I just like the visual image. Just step, click, and then like behind, tick, 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 tick. Step, click, tick, 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 tick.
But you make your way across the Path of the Patient, and you can see some of you as you pass by this lower part of the wall. There's actually the bottom of the wall and flat, but when you get towards the middle, you can see there's actually a cutout of the stone itself that goes inwards, and you can see a dull glow, maybe a purplish, bluish color far behind the ice. It's too distorted to see what's causing it, but it seems like there's more than one point that this glow comes in some deep recess under the wall. And within that recess, it is just completely filled with sheets of ice that have melted and melted and refrozen over ages. And so at parts it's cloudy, and at parts it's simply just distorted with strange twists of where the water is frozen in certain ways. And you start to see there's little specks in the water. And Derek, you're actually somewhat familiar with this. You've heard of this. It is something that you were taught about when you learn about your engineering for the city. one of the great feats of Upper Bastion is there's not really a great way to do plumbing up there. And so the stone had been both engineered and enchanted so that when there is runoff, that water may run out from Bastion, out from Upper Bastion and into this wall. So some of this water is less clean. And however frustrating it is to cross this while it is frozen, nobody wants to be up here when this is thawed.
Seems like a. I say it. Seems like a shitty kind of engineering, but
There we are. And so, after this hour, you make your way to the far side of the path of the patient. With just a short, maybe 40 minutes left of your little hike up to the top.
if we've got that time, then I'm gonna tug on Tosha's rope. What should we say about my dad and his goals in terms of Bastion? I don't think it's much of a threat, to be perfectly honest. They're gonna get tired by the time they get here.
Had you shared that with us before? What you had heard?
I thought that part was the. I don't think I have anything actually hidden at this point. Oh, because it was in Goblin. That's right.
Yeah,
By
because
the
I don't
way-
speak Goblin.
By the way, just before we go in there, Big Guts, my dad, Garfuddle Roll, is amassing a bunch of goblins, presumably not ones that are working in the city and very happy right now, to invade, I guess is a short word for it, in case it comes up.
I mean, do you want me to warn Kamishava of this, or do you
Kind
think
of what
it's...
Nate, how big of a threat pragmatically is this really? Because I'm picturing like your 1d12 of goblins attacking a major city that fights off demons from the underworld on a regular basis.
So, Big Guts Band, last you knew, it's maybe 2 score. It is one of the larger goblin bands of all of them, and Big Gut is always trying to get more goblins to join him by killing other leaders of bands. But, like, the notion of the goblin band attacking something like Bastion is probably laughable to you.
They had nothing to worry about, honestly, but just if it comes up. I'm not with them.
Good to know.
You make your way up the final switchback, approach the great gates of Upper Bastion, the first stone gates that you've seen, all down in Lower Bastion, everything great wooden reinforced steel gates. Up here, these gates of stone have stood for hundreds of years. They stand open most of the summer and closed most of the winter. In fact, at one point in the winter, while they're closed, they will freeze shut. And there's no great gate through which you can enter. There are small doors that could be and are regularly used, but nothing that you could move heavy equipment or many troops or such through. You look through the great gate and enter into Upper Bastion. Immediately to your right, as you enter, you can see some livery stables, mostly empty except for one horse the size of Gertrude that has been put up in stable here. A cart similar to the cart that you have, to which Gertrude was connected, but much better kept. Nobody needed to do some special engineering to get it road safe again. No flame decals. But at the same time, this looks to be a well-kept, well-reinforced, specifically, cart. I think Kelly and let's see. Yeah, Kelly, Mama, and Elias. Any of you can give me a history check, even if you are not proficient.
Okie dokie. Coming up.
Okay.
Total of 16.
That's a 16 for me too.
7. Look, I'm not from here. I don't know the place. It makes sense.
Absolutely. Mama and Callie, this looks to be from Chris Goodall. It looks to maybe have been for somebody important. You couldn't really narrow it down any more than that. Some sort of emissary, most likely. Alar, Elias, it's a big cart. It's nicer than yours. Be kind of nice to have, if you're being honest. It looks like it'd take a good few hits.
Sorry. With that size of horse and that shape of cart, and I will just ask this to everybody else, do we need to be mildly concerned about that, the partner of the person we got our cart and horse from who seemed to think that would be like a whole thing? Is that the partner cart or the partner horse? Are we about to get in trouble with somebody?
It's a good thing we parked our horse down in the outer ring.
Good point. Yeah, okay, we're good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
Gertrude's.
we got it legitimately. I mean,
Yeah.
We pay good money for it. And Gertrude is lovely.
You got the pink slip, right?
uh-huh.
Okay. Forging ownership details.
All right. So, making your way in, you see these livery stables, and yes, just past them, you see a small building by Lower Bastion standards, 2 floors, 2 front doors and 1 door to a side, with a cooking fire out front. And Derek, set up at that cooking fire, you see Sasha, dressed in the same robes, the same stock robes as the children of the Asher wear, cooking up some sort of meal of gruel for himself and a few others who are set out here at the keep for the future members of the Wall That Walks.
Can I take care of something real quick before we pop inside? That's my
Sure.
boss.
Oh, that's your boss.
Oh, oh no, I guess not anymore. No, former boss. But I'll like
Right.
over behind him and
Yeah.
like kind of look at the gruel and just ask him, "Do you want something a bit more substantial than that?"
Oh, Derek. He kind of looks down and sees you because you're a goblin. Looks down into the side and then looks back up. It's good to see you. I'm glad to see you're well.
Yeah, sorry you lost your job, mate.
Yeah, I don't know how and I don't know who, but somebody found out what you did.
I mean, I've gotten much better about liability forms. Haven't I, Ayla? Way better about liability forms. Whenever I do anything involving any living creature, have them sign a waiver.
You have
That's
a
the norm.
very specific collection that you took from children with your cool cart ride.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
Kid-
a whole thing.
kid damn near broke his neck. No liability.
Right. I feel like I don't want any more detail.
Fair
You
enough.
don't.
So you're off to the walking wall, or the wall that walks.
I am, and you see him kind of like pick up. There's a wooden practice sword next to him, and he's like, "Yeah, never really, never was great with one of these, but we'll see."
Is that his weapon that they're giving him to go to the
No.
wall with?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was like, Jesus Christ.
No. You see, there's a small training area, and there's a lot of training weapons. As you could probably imagine, you wouldn't necessarily give people who are being sent essentially to their death a bunch of weapons.
Fair. and you're just fine with this.
I've become fine with it.
Gotcha. Well, I'll come visit.
I don't think
If you
you
want.
should.
That's rude, but all right. Is he? Do I know? Is he a follower of Gond as well?
He is.
A couple things then. More than willing to share a prayer with you for your good fortune, and hopes you don't get immediately mangled and run over by a wall. I'm not really sure.
Well, I'm hoping. I'm hoping they'll use me where I'm best suited, and I can maybe improve the walls. That's the hope. That's the hope. My
Stop him from running away. Yeah.
my I didn't tell you this. I was kind of horrified with myself, if I'm being honest. My husband and daughter fell very ill last winter, and as you can imagine, a food shortage doesn't help that. I knew what those sausages were, and they still don't. I pray they never will. But they wouldn't have made it through the winter without them. And the way I see it, I'm paying you back.
Sorry, can you say that a little louder for that group over there? Oh, your entire family is alive and well. Oh, right. Always listen to Derek. On that same Gondish note, while I'm willing to offer you support and I'll sit with you for a prayer or what have you, I do have one quick question for you. Have you ever heard in any level of scripture? I've been tasked with making this like dark steel gear, but it asks for some general directions I've never run into before. Have you ever forged anything in the fire of life, death?
I can't say that I have.
Are you familiar what that refers to, or do you know someone I could ask?
I mean, the fire of death sounds like something you. I mean, it sounds like something you could ask the high priest about. They seem to be right there. Fire of life? I don't know. Fire's kind of lively, I guess.
That's what I said.
I don't know. This sounds like something for a librarian, or a different kind of priest than you or I are.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's sit for a second and do a. I want to give you a hand. So, and at that moment, I'll unscrew my hand and kind of give it to him. They're teaching me humor. I don't get it.
I have so many more questions that I think are best not answered.
It's got a pencil in this finger. Oh.
Be well, Derek. He sits down to
You too,
to
Sarge.
have a prayer with you.
We did it.
We did it.
And then you see him kind of going. He finishes his meal after you get up and walk away, and he kind of picks up the sword and goes over to a training dummy. And he's clearly received some training as to how to use the sword. He's still working on the practice of how to make that work well, but new skills. I'm sure he'll pick it up within the year before he is put to test.
That's a dead man.
All right. I guess I would like to go about trying to get lodging for my friends.
Oh, sorry, we're not going to Kamishava right now.
I was gonna do that after I got y'all
Cool.
set up.
Then
If
it can
that
wait.
works.
Yes.
Yeah, you see past this building that appears to be some sort of small apartments where Sasha and a few others are currently staying, is a smaller one-story building. And you can, while you can't see into it, there are actually very small, very high windows, or very small windows in this building. You know, Tosha, that within this building is a series of small cages and stocks where folks might be kept if they were less willingly going to the wall that walks. Beyond this, you can see another series of 3 cooking fires and some larger tenements. This appears to be an area, and the tenements are actually built into the outer wall, using both providing additional structure to the wall and relying on the structure of the wall to reach 5 stories while you're up here on this upper tier of Bastion. And this is kind of the general tenements for most of the rank and file priesthood of the Asher. There's a small building beyond that is place apartments for guests of the clergy. And so at the first and second floor of these smaller apartments are typically reserved for dignitaries. There's 3 fairly large apartments, and then above those, another smattering of about 15 apartments, fairly small places to stay for those who are here as guests of the clergy. You know that you can essentially requisition some of those beds as long as they're open.
Great. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and requisition beds for everyone. Does anyone have any preferences about, like, do you want a room together, separately, anything like that you want me to set up?
Probably would be better if some of us, at the very least, were together, or all, the off chance that we're likely to deal with anything nasty.
All right. Yeah, I'll try to get them together as much as possible. And then where I stay in relation to where these apartments are? Is it fairly close or is it far away?
You stay in a. You actually stay in some apartments that are in the Great Church of the Asher, the actual Great Temple that is set at the back of Upper Bastion. That's where you, some of the former brides, Kamishava, and a few others. There's about 10 apartments in the temple proper where the highest ranking are kept. So, like, a 10-minute walk.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I'll try to get them as close together and as close to the temple where I'm staying as possible.
All right. So as you go, you know you need to just go to the temple to requisition this. There's not a front desk at these apartments or anything like that. So you make your way through. Again, there is a smithy up here, only one, constantly working, doing things primarily for the pale ritualists who need specialty weapons often and armors. And past that, the rest of you notice, aside from those cooking fires around those apartments, there's no other sign of food storage or any sort of restaurant or tavern up on this tier at all.
Priest, I hate to interrupt you in your focused and well-meaning situation of getting us situated. Y'all do eat, right? Like there's no bars, there's no. But we will get to eat. I mean,
Yes.
we're gonna make jerky, but I wanted to make sure that, it made me a little nervous. I'm not used to being places where there aren't, you know, folks drinking. Um,
Yeah, not sorry, not a lot of drinking on this level, Mama, but if you have bog water in your room, I'm sure nobody will really mind.
they
But
better not take it. They
but
better not.
yeah, I don't think they would. But yeah, there's no taverns or anything like that up here. You'd have to go into Lower Bastion to have anything like that. And then as far as food, I mean, I can take care of that probably with the lodging that I would be getting for folks. So yeah, there will be meals provided, but it's not exactly like a restaurant, it's kind of what they're making for the day, and that's kind of what you get.
I didn't know if y'all survived on prayer. Like, I was getting a feeling and I just wanted to make sure I voiced it. It's a little different from where I'm from. And it's good to travel and experience new things. Uh, but I just wanted to make sure that I would get to eat. I'm kind of in the long habit of doing that.
Yes, we definitely eat up here. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'll get you set up with some food for sure.
Having this conversation, you pass between the two largest structures up here in Upper Bastion that are freestanding. There are some larger structures built into the mountain itself or built along the wall, but standing freely in the center are two, again, 5-story buildings. They look similar to some of the apartments and tenements that you've seen, except these don't have any cooking fires outside. And you do see the occasional folks passing through. Again, these folks with this like pale sort of powder that has been placed on their skin, and the carved runes into the side of their face. Some of them wearing and sporting armor, some in perhaps some sort of dress down robe that is lighter in color than the gray robes of the Children of the Asher. But again, these appear to be the barracks of the Pale Ritualists. And out here, you can see there's a handful, 10 off to one side, doing some combat training in the courtyard. And you can see there's a flash as of white light as one strikes the other. Some sort of magic or magic adjacent power being bandied about while they do their training and strike out at each other. And it does strike you, anyone who's been traditionally combat trained like a soldier may have been at some point. So Elias, excuse me, and even Callie to a lesser extent in your hunting. You've done sparring before, like formal sparring, in order to train. You've never seen a serious. You've never seen soldiers training that look like they're really attempting to hurt each other in the way that these pale ritualists are attacking. You can see one of them takes a hard blow to the arm, such that they can no longer hold their weapon or their shield in that arm, and they continue fighting until one falls to the ground, and you see one pale ritualist who has been blindfolded for some reason hold up a spear. This spear looks different from everyone else's. Everyone else's weapons seem to have been... There's a certain make, a certain style of Bastion weapons, primarily coming from, or at least for that you've seen of these pale ritualists, wherein they have this light-colored steel, they have black and gold filigree that glows occasionally while they're swinging them. But this one is very different. There's no metal on this weapon. It's a spear that stands about 1.5 feet taller than the woman holding it. The very end looks almost organic, like a giant tooth. Sticking up the top with, again, similar carvings scratched down the sides of the tooth. And it glows with a red sort of fire to it that you can just kind of catch every once in a while in the sunlight. And it comes down to a black wooden handle, haft. But she holds it up as one falls, and you're not sure if this person's even still alive. Walks up, places a hand on them, and they open their eyes, and they get back up and just start swinging again immediately with no other signal. And this woman kind of steps back and puts the tip of the spear, or the butt of the spear down, and just continues, appears to be watching, but again, is blindfolded.
Tosha,
I bet that's made with the fire of life.
what is this?
That is Elena. She's a pale ritualist. Very skilled. She has magic similar to mine, but different. She's one of the great protectors of the church now.
On that note, because I don't think we've ever actually talked about it, do most members of the Church of the Asher have as unpredictable? Oh, let me refer the spellcasters. Do they have as unpredictable magic as you do, or is that a you thing?
That's mostly a me thing. Her powers are similar to mine in that it seemed to be something she was kind of born with and learn to kind of use over time. But it's not, her powers aren't chaotic like in the same way as mine are, if that makes sense.
Where do they get their weapons from? Who makes them?
Well,
Just tooth on the stick.
Olena's weapon is a family heirloom that was passed down. It said that the spear is made from a tooth of one of the old gods, actually.
Cool.
But that's not a common, weapon that any pale ritualist has. That's just through her family, the Millions.
You don't happen to know which old god?
DM, I doubt I do, but do I?
No idea.
Are they friendly? Elena, not the old god.
I would rather not speak with her unless I have to. But if there's information you must know from her, I can attempt it.
Is there anything we should... She seems...
Look, she doesn't like me, okay?
Yeah, I was gonna
So
say, she seems
if you-
scary, so...
If you wish to approach her,
Mhm.
I would
really.
leave myself out of it unless you want that type of interaction with her.
Gotcha.
No, it's more of a, like, if we're likely to run into her, is there anything we should know, like, between the two of you, or is it just like you don't like each other? Or, you were the one who kind of thing, or something dramatic.
Is there history there?
Yeah.
Yes,
That's what he's trying to. Okay, so that makes sense.
there is.
Okay.
I
Cool.
would rather not talk about it unless we have to, but
Gotcha.
if we have to at some point, we can go there.
We don't need to go into your history.
Is Elena currently engaged in doing anything? Like, does this seem like it would be an interruption?
She seems to be almost you might almost say she's refereeing the sparring, if you could call it sparring, and if you could call it refereeing, because she's really only stepped in when somebody has hit the ground. But yes, she seems to be focused on whatever's going on.
Is it okay to watch? Like, are we intruding on something?
You don't get the impression, and you know this about the Pale Ritualists, the times that you see them. Most of the time, they are single-minded in their tasks. So whatever they're doing is most important, and it's more important that you don't get in their way than that you don't necessarily. Most of them just won't interact with you if they have nothing to do with you. So it's not like, oh, they'll get offended and say something to you if you come by. But if you get too close and you get hit, they're not going to feel bad about it.
But that sphere looks like it was specially forged, with it having such a dark hilt, a fancy dragon's tooth. Is it spear tip?
Yeah, I mean,
Is there a check I can make, Nate, to determine whether or not getting information about that specific weapon would aid? Like, is it the same kind of, like, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not format. The same kind of like pedigree of knowledge that would be helpful in terms of kind of determining what the hell some of these terms mean? Like, would they maybe have like a history of who initially, built the spear that I could find workings from?
I'm not going to make you make a check, because I think it is obvious to Derek that wherever this spear came from is from someone who has knowledge of magical smithing, which is kind of the area that you seem to be leaning towards that you're not familiar with.
Then can I then plod my little feet up, just like kitty corner to Elena, kind of pretending to be watching the match? Like, look up, look at the match, look up. Just... Tosha, she's a bitch, right?
Why would
Elena,
you do
who
this?
was like, paid you literally no mind. She's like, no, didn't seem to notice you, could have easily stepped on you, paying so little attention. You say that. And you kind of see like a breath catches in her chest. She doesn't turn to you. Who are you, little one?
Someone who's just asked too much work. Worn out. Oh, he caught one in the ear. But you can call me Derek. The cleric.
Is there a need, little one?
Yeah, I couldn't help but notice your sphere there. Outstanding. But it's a family heirloom. Who was the what do we call it? The initial proprietor in your family? Who built it? Who made the cool spear?
You'll have to check the archives. I know only that this is the Tooth of Destruction, and I wield it today.
Oh, so I thought it was in your family, isn't it? Passed down? Or was I incorrect? Did I mishear that?
And where would you get such information, little one?
The archives. That's why I came to you. Obviously very busy.
Then head back to the archives. Speak to a Chard priest
reading.
there, they can help you.
Fair enough. I like plod back over to the group.
As you start walking away, you feel, before you even see, warmth immediately in your face as the spear just kind of like bars your path for a brief moment, and you can feel fire licking off of it, sort of starting to like, where it's not like quite setting you on fire, not immediately burning, but it's like you're starting to get a quick sunburn on your nose. Do not speak to me of the high priest unless you have a purpose. I would not have you enter our combat ring again unless you are ready to do combat.
Fair enough.
She turns to the rest and she says, "Break. Food." And she turns towards the building, flips the spear tip side down, and as she taps the tip of the spear on the ground, there's a hollow ringing that seems to echo off of all of the buildings around you. And every 2 or 3 steps, just tap, hollow ringing. Few steps, tap, hollow ringing, as she heads off towards the main building.
I'll rejoin the group. That Olena. Bitch, right?
Well, she's been through a lot of things, but yes, she's difficult to be around.
Like an orphan eater.
You make your way past these couple of buildings, and you can see ahead of you just a doorway in the side of a mountain. A great, again, stone door. Symbols of fire on both of these, on both sides of this split door. And large steps heading up to it. Tosha, you know this to be the Great Temple of the Asher. Within is where you can find the archives of the temple and those who run it. In front of it, as you approach, you can see the Red Walk, where there's a deep red liquid frozen in with the ice, streaming outwards towards where you're coming from. Streaks of red, where Tosha, you know the Latonans were murdered in the streets, such that their blood still stands 100 years later, frozen in the ice. And as you approach the temple, that's where we'll pick up right after break. So, see you all in a little bit. We'll be back in about 10 minutes, give or take. Yeah, see you after break.
Wow.
We good?
Yeah.
Nick, I'm gonna. So I know I've got to make a dark steel clockwork piece forged in the fire of life and death, but I didn't write down my time, like frame, like when I had to have it done by. Do you perhaps have that information?
And we're back. All right, so picking up where we left off, the party is just outside the Great Temple of the Asher in Upper Bastion, ready to head in. You can see here at the Great Temple, just outside the doors, again, two of the Pale Ritualists positioned outside of the Great Stone doors that are currently ajar. The air is very cold, and having it just slightly ajar is the symbol that it is open. You know this, Tosha. But you would do well not to leave any doors open this far up in the altitude.
Are we still arranging for lodging, or has that been taken care of?
We'll say Tosha can do that on the way in. We don't need to
Okay.
talk through all of that.
In that case, we have a barrel that has some fun things inside of it that are very, very evil. Is this the place that we want to try to drop those off? Because it's the mace and the armor that we got from Oust, or his cabinet, whatever.
I can definitely take it with me, and I myself can't do the purification spell needed for those, but I was going to try to get someone from the church to be sent to purify those sites we found in Kashir as well. So I could give the armor as part of that, as another item that we want that done to.
Plus it'll probably help with corroborating your story. Hey, look, this creepy cult stuff. So yeah,
Definitely.
then we'll have planned to have brought that, I guess.
All right, so you did lug a full-size barrel full of very heavy armor and a large, heavy mace.
Alar rolling it across an ice flow of
through the path of patience.
I mean, I could also just, for the sake of what we want to say we do here, we could say that it's being kept in our wagon now with all of our other stuff, and I can just tell them about that and say that it's something that we need to
I would
have dealt with.
I would vote for bringing it. And the reason why I would do that is because anything that evil, I don't trust to kind of be on its own, if that makes sense. The last thing you want is... Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, Callie is decently strong, so if we can, rig it up, she can, essentially tie it to her back and then just, put her knapsack, on top. It's not ideal, but...
It is a full-size barrel.
Yeah, it's I guess it's, slightly too big.
I could turn into a bear.
A barrel?
In all honesty, it's fine to have Alar push it. I think it's funny. Or
But you push it up the mountain?
Yeah, you're just rolling. I mean, it is... A cart can go up this. You're just rolling it.
Hard mode for no reason.
I'm doing strength training.
Have you been in this party?
My number up.
I just became best friends with Flamey McTouch's stuff over there, and
no, you didn't.
Best friends. Well, better friends than Tosha is. And Tosha's got all the power, so this is a moment.
I actually put down in my notes that Elena probably hates the both of you now.
So
Racist.
You've entered into the Great Temple of the Asher. As you walk in, you can see the entryway, very similar to many temples. This is a place of worship, but what you do not see that is common in most of the other temples is an area for sitting, pews or benches or chairs or even cloth set to the ground. There's simply a flat open space, kind of 360 around a space for a great bonfire in the center. The fire is currently very small compared to the area that it could fill. Pardon me. But there's a small fire going within the very center of this 10-foot across fire pit. In the center of the room, there's a small dome that kind of comes down and over it and goes up into some sort of shaft that presumably vents this elsewhere safely. And as you kind of look around this circular room, off to the east end, you can see a door or an archway that leads down a hall. Tosha, you know that's where most of the kind of basic administrative things that you might deal with, for example, getting lodgings, you easily enough pop in there for a couple minutes to let folks know. Nobody questions you, nobody gives you any issue. Everybody knows who you are, and nobody is about to deny you guest housing. You were able to get the top floor of that guest housing is more like a hostel. Just a large floor that has about 10 beds in it. It's currently empty, so you're able to just secure that for the 4 of your companions, because all of the other rooms are relatively small, single and double bed rooms. Heading out from there, to the back, to the left as you first walked in, if you were to go that way, is where the archives, and heading upstairs in that direction, where a lot of the higher echelons of the charred priests, and whatever Ashen elders that stay here in the temple, as well as your quarters, Kamishawa's quarters, and a couple other folks of note. To the back, there's an archway that opens to a circular stairwell that goes upwards into what is essentially what you know of as the inner tower. This is the tower of this temple that climbs up inside the mountain. Another 10 stories that is used, but there's even 5 stories beyond that that's been blocked off because it had been deemed unsafe in the past and kind of crumbled, and you haven't been able to build it up given the state of things in the Shattered Kingdoms. But you know there's a 10-story tower as you walk to the back, and up 3 levels is where you will find the audience chamber of Kamishawa Crest, where she's probably sitting at her desk, either angry with somebody or angrily writing notes.
All right. Well, I have your room set up. I am gonna go give my report to Kamishawa. Is there anything anyone would like me to set them up with before I head up to the tower to do that?
Do I need any specific permissions to go into the archive, or is that like an open library?
If you have permissions, if you have permission to be in this temple, there's no guards at that door. There are 2 guards at the back going up to the upper tower, but there are no guards outside the archive. There are no guards outside the administrative side. It seems like you could just walk in.
Then nope, I'm all set.
I'm going to go with Derek to see if I can help translate, because if it's written in Elvish or something, unless you want me to talk to your mama, because I'm happy to do that.
Feel free to do what you would like.
Derek, do you need some help with translation? Okay.
Sure, I have no idea. Maybe.
If we're splitting, then I'll go with the scholar crew.
Sounds good.
We're good friends. I know this is a big moment for you. Enjoy it by yourself. Thanks for setting us up with a room.
Callie?
I'm with Tasha.
All right.
All right.
I'll then carry the barrel of unmentionables.
Yeah, I was gonna say between the 2 of us, we should be able to get that barrel up to Kamishawa's tower.
The slow, steady way. There is certainly not anything such as a dumbwaiter that goes up this tower. But we'll start with Team Scholar. the three of you take the left and head into what you've been told is the archive. But as you walk in, you are greeted with a half wall, 5 feet into the archive. And you can see several priests in darker gray robes who have their top half of their head covered in a dark soot, very similar to how Tosha adorns their face. There are several charred priests kind of walking back and forth between wooden shelves and stacks of what looks to be various different types of tomes. You do see some traditional leather-bound parchment tomes, but you also see tomes that appear to be slats of ribs or bone that have been carved with information and then rolled into a wrap so that you would simply unroll it and read it rib by rib. You see stacks of what appear to be small stone tablets. You see what appear to be sort of blocks of wood so that are kept together with thongs of leather. Various types of writing and recording instruments from time that have been kept and maintained here. And as you walk in, this strange and unrecognized crew, one of the charred priests approaches. A elf woman, maybe a bit younger than Mama, but getting on in years. Yes. May I aid you?
Yeah, Olena sent me. She said to come here and consult with the child priests to, one, look a little bit back on her family tree to the progenation of that family heirloom that she wanders around, and that when I'm mentioning that, I'll clink my metal hand together to try and mimic the echoey like ting sound that she made when she walked down the hallway. And any writings that you've got on forging things in the, and I'll try and do Cody fingers, but it won't really work. Fires of life and death. Also, what's the spine of that book made out of? And I'll point to the ribcage.
You point, and there's actually like a shelf of many books that are bound in this way. But you point to it, and she just turns. Primarily sinew. Why?
Oh, well, because you've ruined a joke. Could have made a spine, and it would have like the spine of the book and the rib. I'm learning humor.
I haven't. What? So, forging with the fires of life and death. You're looking for magical sources of forging.
Yes. Probably.
Well, I'll see what we can find. I will be honest, it's a little beyond me. So I will help you as best I can through what we have. You might be better served speaking with Datir. He makes the weapons for the Pale Ritualists.
Give me a second. Here. Is he around? Is he working today?
I'm certain, heard a smith working away. He's out there in the Upper Bastion smithy.
Excellent. And then in regards to Elena's family,
Certainly, I can pull up some of the great houses histories. You would be looking for. Let's see. You're also asking about the heirloom,
yes,
the tooth.
correct.
Right. And when do you need this research done?
I mean, I don't want to go back to Elena empty-handed. She would be very unhappy with me if I walked back to her.
Give me
right now with that. Can I chat with the smithy outside and come back? Give you some time.
first. Give me a deception check.
It's not a deception check. She would be very mad if I went back and saw her. She told me as much.
I need you to give me a deception check. This is deception by omission. You're making it sound like something, even though it's not that way.
Okay.
Kind of like if you gave somebody a copper and said they were definitely someone I hired.
Where is...
Technically true is the best kind of true when it comes to magic.
I don't suppose you'd let me do a persuasion over a deception, would you?
I would not. This is
Plus
definitely
0,
deception.
16.
All right.
Nice.
I was expecting like a 4.
I wasn't expecting to have to roll.
See, we're on the same page. It's because there's a hint of truth.
Well, their passive insight is really high. They kind of look, and it's odd that she would take such interest in this now, but certainly I can have this research done by the end of the week, I should think.
Is there any way you can fast track it? I don't know if we're going to be around for the week. Do we know? Actually, Nate, can I ask you that a little bit out of game? Like, do we have a timetable that we're in right now?
You know that you would like to, if you can, head to the Temple of the Moon, correct? To the Great Archive there.
Yeah,
Right. But did we establish when
we're not going to have time to go there and come back before the whole Asher ceremony, right?
It is most of 4 weeks to get there, and then most of 4 weeks to get back, and it is 8. You have 8 weeks until the Asher ceremony.
Okay.
So it would be close. It would be cutting it close.
anything you can get me as soon as you can. Honestly, in speaking with Elena, she said that you'd be the best to. It would be best if I consulted with the archivists, as she's obviously very busy with training stuff right now and her duties. Because time's a bit of a factor, anything you can get me, it doesn't have to be well done. Really, I'm just looking for names at this point of who was the progenitor of, that spear within her family. That's really the one piece of information I'm looking for. We don't need whole hierarchies of family trees or patronages or anything like that.
You need to know who smit that spear.
Pretty much. I presume, because is the implication that it was done by a member of her family, if it's an heirloom?
It could have been, or someone could have been gifted it, or any number of reasons.
That's fair. So I guess then just like the primary proprietor.
I can look into that. It's not something Elena has shown any interest in the past, so I can't say we've done this research before, but I could... Looks down at a book, and they're kind of like scratching a couple things out. Pale ritualists. All right. They never have any sense of time, do they? I could probably get this before tomorrow.
That'd be perfect, thank you. And if I don't come by and get it, I'm staying with Antosha Crest. Just name drop. You could just drop it by either of our dwellings over there.
There's like kind of a long pause. You're
a guest of the Crest, yes. What was your name?
You're a guest of the Crest. And you are doing research for Elena?
I'm doing research for myself. Elena's helping me out.
I am going to need you to make another deception check after that
line. It's not a
line.
deception check! What am I deceiving?
Elena is helping you out?
Yeah, she sent me here. To get information, because she didn't want to give it to me.
Yeah, that's not her helping you out. That's like, I need a deception check. You're really stretching.
Well, how about a nat 20 then?
That'll do. She looks and she goes, they must have made up after everything.
Oh god, no. I'm just kind of a mutual friend of both parties.
He's very unusual.
He must be. Elena
He
hasn't.
is.
Metal hand.
Elena hasn't had any friends since the eyes.
That down as well.
Yes, whatever you've done that has. If you're helping to take this darkness off of Elena, I will see what I can do before sundown. Thank you, Goblin.
Are you also a friend of Elena?
No, but I report to her.
Ah, fair enough. Yeah, I get it. No, I've had a good relationship with my last boss. He's off to the walking wall. All right, I'm gonna go talk to Detir. Is that what I wrote down?
Mm-hmm. That sounds
It's
right.
here.
On on the way out, Mama's just like, thank you. We do appreciate all your help, and
I appreciate.
lovely.
No, honestly, if please, stay as long as you need. Let me know anything that you need. As long as you're helping Elena pass this darkness. Yes.
On that note, and Elias is gonna shift back into the ALR stuff just because he's still cover. For the High Priest, if there's anything that you could get us regarding the old gods, could be helpful, especially considering Spear and where
When you say anything,
historical texts, archaeological records, anything from that era.
are you learned? Do you?
To some degree, I would not consider myself one of your scholars, but I was.
As you might imagine, when it comes to the old gods, having been unnamed, it makes it difficult to research
I'm quite
and
sure.
maintain. I'll see what we have that's useful. Most of it is drivel, nursery rhymes, and tales that old mothers would tell their children and such.
Would still appreciate it. Thank you.
What is the specific question, if I might ask? And you all are getting the impression, you're not checking out books. Nobody's going to show you any of these things. You're getting a report.
Ideally, it would be nice if there could be a bit more of elucidation on one known as Elf Friend, I believe. There's also one tied to destruction, which seems to be connected to the Tooth of Destruction, i.e. the spear. Anything along those lines. And that includes the nursery rhymes, that sort of thing. Even those sorts of tales could potentially have some sort of fragment that would be helpful in ultimately what we're looking for.
Right. Again, this is not my personal specialty,
No worries.
but
Of course.
I will get this on the docket for the High Priest.
There's not as much rush on this. Take your time, whatever you need to do.
Good, because if we're transcribing nursery rhymes and old tales, we could maybe have it ready month's end.
8 weeks.
Take your time. Take your time. We appreciate the effort you're going to for this.
All right. Y'all are heading out to Detir?
Please.
All right.
Sounds like it.
Tosha and Callie, you are rolling this barrel up 3 floors of these stone stairs. As you pass each floor, or rather, as you pass floor 2, you see standing at guard at that floor, there's a heavy door, and again, one of the Pale Ritualists standing guard outside. Tosha, you know any of the used floors in the tower, each floor has a guard. None. Callie, you might find it a little unsettling, but Tosha, this is what you would come to expect. The guard, again, does not acknowledge either of you whatsoever as you pass by, does not look in your direction, stands rail still, just staring past you down the stairs in presumably the direction that trouble would come if it were to come. As you, well, two of the strongerest characters in the party, still not the easiest thing to take a full-size barrel full of very heavy armor and a big maul up these stairs.
Sorry.
So struggling a little bit past them, but again, no acknowledgement. You get up to the next floor and you can see that there's a heavy wooden door guarded again, open just a crack inward. Antosha, you know this to be the receiving room of Kamishaba.
I will just, I mean, I guess customarily, do I knock?
No, you know, if the door's open, you may enter.
All right, I'll just enter then, and say, I am just returning from Kashir, here to make my report on what we found.
Kelly, you see a middle-aged full orc sitting there in similar robes to those that Antosha wears, but with a small crown upon her head that has what looks to be a bridal veil that is kind of split and pulled off to each side. You can see she has a bit of a underbite with profound tusks kind of sticking out from the bottom. Looks up to you. High priest. Enter. And who are you, elf?
Your minutes. I am Caligo DeFera. I've been traveling with priest here. We met in Kashir and uncovered some unexpected things, and I'm just
Thank you.
here to
That's enough.
by. All right.
What do you have to report?
We went to Kashir and uncovered what had been destroying the food there. It was a kind of curse that was being perpetrated by a cult that worships a spider demon of some kind. One other member of the group that I met up with said they've been seen here in Bastion sometimes as well, but and we apprehended, involved in this was Paletta Kashir. She sacrificed herself so that this curse may be performed. Volstat and her daughter seemed not to know about this. Seemed to be something she was doing in secret. And also Father Oust, who ran the Corellin temple in Kashir, we found to be an acolyte of this spider demon. In this barrel we have his armor that has signs of this creature, this deity. We were able to disrupt the ritual sites, and we believe the food will now be safe.
High priest, I did not send you somewhere to find out what you believe. Did you fix the problem, or will there be an issue with the food?
The problem should be fixed. There are still other things that need to be done to make sure the sites can't be used again that I was unable to do while I was there. So I would like to request that we send some priests there to purify the sites so that it can't be done again. But to my knowledge, yes, the problem is dealt with. However, there's still the problem of the family. We will need someone new to rule over Kashir.
Well, let us take these in order then. What is this cult of which you speak? You mentioned they worship a spider demon and that they are found here in the city.
Yes, I know some of them are found here in the city, but they've also been elsewhere, definitely in Kashir, maybe in other cities throughout the Shattered Kingdoms. We don't know the full scope of their spread.
I'll need you to speak with one of the members of the Children of the Asher. Someone who knows more about the Lower Bastion goings on. Raminari, I believe, should suffice.
Yes, I'll reach out to her and tell her of this as well.
Tell her only what you need. Find out from her what is going on in Lower Bastion. You spoke of their symbols. Let's see this armor.
Yeah, I'll produce it from the barrel.
Touch it with the claws. Don't touch it with the bare hands.
You knock open the barrel and kind of spread some of this out, kind of unceremoniously in the middle of the floor. Kamishava takes a look across it. It is vile, whatever it is.
Yes.
Take it to Datir. See if he recognizes anything of it. And failing that, maybe he could do something with it.
I should also say that I was able to investigate the tower that rose from the ground near Kashir, the Kashir Barony as well. It was one of the sites being used by this cult for this ritual. There was some other information we found there about the Asher before they were the Asher, when they were one known as Elion.
She raises a hand and just waves that away. Are you saying this cult raised stone from below? That something that was lost was brought back by this cult?
We still don't know the way by which the tower was raised. We're not sure if the cult did it or if some other means raised it and the cult used it, but it was a tower from the Jukut Empire.
But you found you gained no understanding of what raised this tower.
There was some strange magics that I witnessed there. There's some kind of mechanism that raised it, but we were unable to determine exactly how it worked.
And now, this tower, it is left unguarded.
Well, not unguarded. The tower had many means of guarding itself that were still active from these older times. But yes,
And yet you
unguarded
entered.
by. Yes. To your point, it's not guarded by anyone from Bastion. People could conceivably enter it, yes.
I'll need a report written where to find this tower. I'll see that folks are sent to cleanse the grounds. If you give me the places that these are to be found.
Yes, I will. There were 3 sites in total.
And you, Elf,
Hi.
have you anything to add?
Oh, well, just that if you do send people to that castle, you should just go directly to the site that needs to be purged. There's a lot of magic there that's held over from long lost times, and many people have died not knowing what they're doing. So take a gentle path and not disturb the sleep of such ancient relics. That and the fact that even though the problem has likely been solved, it takes time for land to recuperate from darkness, and you shouldn't expect huge bounties while it recovers, I would say.
This land is bountiful and needs to continue to be so. So I will expect as I expect, and I thank you to not tell me what to do again. What I do need from you is to know what you intend to do about this. Are you simply an elf along for the ride? You look to be a mudwalker.
But Skipper, actually.
Sure.
Everyone is curious about things that have come back from long ago. Powerful magic is helpful to many. I'm here to make sure that the land and everyone is as safe as we can be, and that darkness does not overcome us. That's my job, is to keep people safe. The scale of which I do ranges from a simple escort to apparently castles and evil spider cults. So my range is great.
Let me rephrase that. This information was found while the high priest of the Temple of the Asher went and performed their duties in the name of the Asher. Do you intend to share this information with your own folk?
Well, as it pertains to us, sure, but the secrets of the Asher are none of their wherewithal. Your things are your things. But dangers that affect the whole land need to be warned about. The cult has influence. They are not just here. And to assume otherwise is, well, be negligible on my part.
Yeah, I will say that this Father Oust seemed to have come from Lug, best we could tell before he was here in the north. So this influence reaches far. And I'll also say that without the help of Caligo and the others that I found in Kashir, this threat would not have been wiped out.
And without the use of the sword, the Pale Ritualist would not be able to do their job, and yet we do not defer our thoughts to the sword. I would have you remember that, Tosha. She turns to you, Callie. You will be allowed to leave with the knowledge that you have.
Thanks. So glad. She's like, in her head, she's like, I am so glad Mama is not here right now. Biting her tongue. Yeah, you are most gracious.
Let's summon a dragon in a minute here. You can be real upset.
Will there be anything else?
Yes. Elf, I would speak with the High Priest alone.
Yeah. At your pleasure. And I just sort of like do it like the fluffiest bow I could possibly do. To wait.
And do you walk out of the room? Where are you going?
Well, I figured the door was cracked when I got here, so I just like exit but leave it slightly more cracked and just like lean up against the wall, be like, she said to leave, she didn't say how far, so
Yeah, you walk out the door and you leave it cracked, and as you walk out the door, the pale ritualist turns and grabs the handle and pulls it closed.
rude.
Again, staring down the... You can, for the most part, hear what they're saying, though. Kamishava is not particularly quiet.
Okay. I'll just sort of lean against the wall, closest to the door, just like, if he's not moving me, I'm not moving, and just listening.
Kamishava looks at you, Toshin. Who are these that you travel with?
Well, there is one called Derek who is from here in Bastion as well. Was part of the group that I left here traveling with. We were beset on the pass by an evil force who killed everyone else we traveled with on the way to Kashir. So it was just Derek and I when we first arrived. In Kashir, I found others who were also investigating this tower, and it seemed prudent to work together. So there's Kaliko, Mama Faye from the Temple of the Moon, and Alar from somewhere down south.
So you have found others who were investigating the same phenomena that you were.
That's correct.
Only as it pertains to the Risen Stone.
Yes, although as I mentioned, they also helped root out.
I don't
this
care
evil
what they
cult.
did. I just care what they want. They came up to investigate the Risen Stone, yes?
That is my understanding.
They did not come up to investigate the food.
Not to my knowledge, with the exception of Derek.
Did you cross paths with any kinsmen in your wanderings?
Not in Kashir itself. Why? How did the kinsmen come into this? Were they looking into the stone as well?
If only. No, the kinsmen are here about the food. The kinsmen recently received a troubling missive from Lu suggesting that we are not capable of feeding them, but somehow Lu, who relies on our food and the bounty of the oceans, is able to. I've never met a kinsman that trusts a human or a Lu elf as far as your goblin friend could throw them. So, there are talks of what this means. I'll also note that while Lug has given us great pressure, as has Chipscale, regarding the food that we were unable to produce last year, they've sent fewer workers last year, the year before, and there was a report that there was but one cart from Chipscale this year. This is concerning.
It is concerning.
I don't know if they plan to attack if they have found some other source of food or what. But Lu is acting. Lu's actions are concerning. I would be mindful
Aren't
of your
they
friends
always?
I would be mindful of your friends who come up from the south. And while yes, they are, these actions are strange in a way others are not.
I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
If there is nothing else, you may return to your normal duties here in Upper Bastion, starting this evening.
I did wish to ask for some leave soon, potentially, if travel's able to be finished before the Ascension, to travel to the Temple of the Moon in order to further research some of the things I found that I mentioned pertaining to this old lore of the Asher, to speak to the people in the archives, the library there.
You would travel to the archives so close to the Ascension.
Potentially, this information could pertain to the Ascension for all that I know.
Give me a persuasion check.
'22.
Requisition horses. You cannot get a cart there and back in a comfortable time. You will need to be here a week early, in preparation. You know this.
Yes. I may decide against it if we cannot get there in time and if my companions aren't able to make the trip, but I thank you for the leave if we do need to go there first.
This is no leave. I need you to deliver a message. And
To whom?
she pulls out a bit of parchment that's been folded and sealed. The actual wax seal on it, you can see, has a slight sparkle to it, slightly unnatural. You're familiar with this. These are missives of the church. Kamishava will know when it is opened, essentially. I need you to take this to the priestess of the moon there.
What is their name?
Kamishava's not hesitating. I'm just looking it up. Mother Corin, the head priestess. Tosha.
Yes.
Before you go, I would have you recount for me the tale of the Latonan and what happened to them.
Why is that?
Because you risk missing the Ascension, and I would have you recount what happens when those who turn their back on the Asher choose to do so.
I'm not turning my back on anything. The research into the lore of the Asher is my purview as the High Priest, and is something I'm responsible for. I would be turning my back on the Asher if I did not follow this through. I will be back in time for the ritual.
And all the same, I would have you recount.
You know the story as well as I do. I don't see what purpose this serves.
I don't trust that you do know the story.
You have surely told it to me enough times, and I have had to retell it enough times.
Then let us skip to the end. What happened to the family Latonin?
They were murdered on the steps before this temple. Is that what you wish to hear?
And why were they murdered? How did that end up happening?
Because they chose that fate rather than to leave the church, be banished, sent to the wall that walks.
How many charred priests, even pale ritualists, with few exceptions, would simply lay down their lives for no other reason than the Asher bade it? Could you count them on one hand? Two?
Well, I don't know. They probably wouldn't know until the moment of death came to them either.
And yet still, do you suppose that it is scores? Over 100. Women and children, non-members of the church as well, who bear the name, that would choose to die?
I can't claim to be able to see into the souls and hearts of the clergy any more than you can.
Then let me recount to you the story I was told as a child as to why there are no records of the final moments of the family Latonin. My great-grandmother, the first of the Crast brides, she declared that it was not worth writing down their final moments. But you may speak to the former brides, those who still walk among us. They were there, and they know. No, Tosha, they did not choose to die in the streets. They were rounded up, and they were murdered. Certainly some of them would have run, had they been given the option. Some of them may have joined the wall that walks, simply to be useful. But by and large, they were rounded up, against their will, and killed on the steps of the Church of the Asher. And if you believe anything other than that, you are a fool and naive, and I have no one to blame for that but myself. You are excused. Take this pile of mess with you.
I pick it up. I don't say anything else to her or give any particular kind of bow or movement. I just pick it up and leave silently.
You open the door. There's a pale ritualist staring down the hallway downstairs, and Callie sitting immediately next to the door.
All right, let's take this back down.
All right.
You all make your way out. You're a little bit behind as Derek and co. You're rolling into the smith where you can see white fire coming out of the smithy, very similar to the ritual fire, the sacred fire that Tosha can produce as he works on some sort of blade.
Hello? Are you Datir? Hello, Jim. Hello, Datir.
One moment. And there's a pause, and he turns and draws the sword across the backside of his arm, still white hot. And you can see a burn and a slash that kind of appears as the end of the sword goes across it, and dried blood kind of forms on the tip of the sword, and he quenches it in some sort of liquid. And turns around. Dwarf stands maybe a foot taller than most dwarves that you've seen. Burly and oversized. Datir approaches. Yes, may I help you?
Wouldn't it be easier just to keep some, like, blood around? So you don't have to then go and get, like, mended up after you're done making a sword? Bless you.
If the only I don't even know what the hell voice I'm doing anymore. If the only goal was to get blood, surely. But you don't get essence of life out of dead blood.
Here we go. However, right, why not, and I just pull out the jar of preserving, why don't you just stick, like, your blood in there, with eyeballs all still looking around and shit like that, and then pour that on there. Does that work, hypothetically speaking? And follow up, if the answer's yes, can I have some of your blood?
He just stares at what? What is that?
This is a jar of preserving. Anything you put in there stays fresh, that kind of. I'd be willing to trade it for some knowledge on.
Like my troll heart that's currently in there.
Yeah,
Beating.
see how it's still beating?
It sure is.
Pretty neat, right? For like knowledge on how to
He like looks at it. He's
forge
like,
with the fire of life and fire.
Is that
life and death?
Is that the heart of an ice troll?
Sure is.
I mean, if you wanted to part with that, I could give you all kinds of knowledge.
Like how to forge with the fire of life and the fire of death, and what those two things are.
He kind of is taken aback when you say those things. I'm sorry, who are you again? As he like kind of like regards you differently as you say that phrase.
In a positive way or in a negative way?
Give me an insight check.
Haha, that's a 5 on the die for a total of. I have a +7, 12.
Nice.
Oh, God. Okay.
Hard to pin positive or negative necessarily. Seems more positive with a 12, but seems more curious and incredulous that you would know what either of those things are.
I'm Derek.
Well, I suppose for the still beating heart of an ice troll, I could share some of that knowledge with you.
Hey, look, can I sell your troll heart?
Yeah, it's fine.
We'll come back to this. And he points to you, Alar. If you're the one I'm dealing with, I have something else for you. But, Derek. The fire of death is, well, it's easy for us to come by. There's a fairly common ritual here in Upper Bastion for producing it. Sacred oil burns with the fire of death. If you're looking to create the essence of death, that could be a little more complicated, although there is some in the oil. Depending on how much you need, you might be able to simply use the oil and the unburned oil as the fire and essence of death. If you need more concentration than that, though, there's a smith at the Temple of the Moon. He doesn't so much build anymore. He's aged. And,
Definitely.
Elves were never so great as smiths anyway, so. But knowledgeable he is. He might help you find essence of death if that's something specifically that
Did you
you
give
need
me a
more
name?
of. That's oh, Jesus.
When are you going to start naming people Stan?
Anyway, his name is Vernon.
That's not too bad. I remember that one. And then Fire of Life?
Essence of life is easy to come by. It's your lifeblood, fresh from the body. I don't fully understand this jar you have and how it might work or not work. That's I guess, a practical question. We could test that.
Could be fun.
But does it produce blood? I don't. Anyway, essence of life, the blood of a living thing, as it lives, is sufficient. If you need a lot of it, or if you need it concentrated, I cannot help you with that. Rather, I refuse to help you with that. But if you need just a bit, now you saw me do just so earlier.
And it doesn't matter what kind of blood it is. Like, I could use a squirrel. I wouldn't have to use my own.
Presumably. I don't know that the blood of a small animal would be as potent as yours. And I don't mean that to say be careful. I mean, I really don't know. These are things that are... I was taught how to do things, not why they work.
Have you ever used either of these methods to forge a dark steel?
No. I'm not capable of doing as such.
Oh, fuck.
But if you mentioned Fire of Life,
Yes.
I don't know how you get fire from blood. That perhaps Vernon could help with, or hopefully
Really
Vernon.
don't want this troll heart, do you?
But I do not know. I have a suspicion. I have a suspicion that certain magical relics that are wielded by folks around Upper Bastion may have been so forged. I could not repeat what had been done to create them. I have tried to figure out in a backwards way how such a thing could be created. But if you were allowed to, on the off chance you were allowed to inspect or research a great ancient relic that might have flame coming out of one end and look somewhat like a dragon's tooth, I have a suspicion that the fire that there burns was forged with life. It's certainly not a fire that I can forge.
Oh, Elena's already helped me out with that one.
Oh,
Cool.
well.
This is very
then
convenient.
You have that taken care of.
Well, by the end of the day, apparently. Because you didn't quite answer my question, I'm going to ask you one quick follow-up before I give you a troll's heart, because it's pretty cool. It's pretty big. Who are the eyes?
Excuse me?
The eyes?
Who are the eyes?
I may have misheard you earlier, Nate.
I think they were talking about like Olena's eyes, like literally.
Being
Oh,
yeah,
Before the eyes. Yeah.
before the
Yeah.
eyes.
got it. The way it was phrased was like she hasn't had any friends since, well, before the eyes. Okay. See, I was like, maybe the eyes are like mates of hers. But no, they're literally when she's saying she didn't have any friends prior to her. Oh, so getting rid of her darkness is giving her sight back. Right. I've misinterpreted this completely. I was going to give her a rock and cast light on it. This might as well be in character at this point. It's
Excellent.
like Derek's just oh right, yes. No, I thought she had a mate and their name was Eyes, and I could go and sort that. No. Literally make the blind see is what you're asking me to do. That's normal. That's normal. Well then, final follow up then. If you were tasked, hypothetically, with making somebody see I could make metal eyes.
Don't. I have a
Cyborg
nasty feeling that's not going to work.
eyes. Well, I'll try it on myself first. We've got 8 weeks.
Oh God. Well, at least you know you. As long as you do one eye at a time.
Hey, I always do things one thing at a time, and I hold up the weird metal, not completely finished yet, clanky hand thing.
Yep, I'm aware.
I can grab so much cereal.
Yes, that has become a skill of yours.
Okay, I'm there now. All right, so then A-Large needs you to work on being super convincing so that I can put these in her eye sockets.
No. Look, this I am willing to help with a great many things. No. You're
will push you
welcome
in a
to the
cake.
heart, by the way. I was just gonna make a potion with it. So
What
You could
potion?
be
Maybe
more-
we just buy it.
it's fine. For all we know, we'll find more ice trolls on the way out of town.
Well, you better pray not.
Yeah, I hope not. That sucks.
Well, we found them on the way in, and the last time you left, you dealt with the same sort of thing. So I'm just assuming on the way out, you know.
Oh no, we got our shit pushed in by an old lady.
Yes, old lady again. I'm assuming she comes back, and we have to old lady again.
Well, she wasn't a troll.
No, but she had a troll this time, so maybe she'll have
Just
a
a
troll next time.
bitch.
Maybe she has 2 trolls this time.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll give him a beating heart. Wait, am I supposed to give him the jar as well? Do you want the jar as well, or just the heart?
We might need to keep the jar for the essence of life or something.
He looks over at the weapon that was just quenched, and he has about 4 other weapons like sitting out on a table. Well, if you bring the jar back here, 4, 5. It's a big troll heart. I bet we could get 6.
You went mute.
I've got space for 1. Do you?
Space for 1. Sorry, you cut out a little bit.
He looks over and counts up the weapons that he has in here, ready to go, and he just says, "I have space for 1. Do you have a weapon that has not been enchanted but is well made?"
Yes, we do.
Would you like it better?
Yes.
No, it's not that. Out of curiosity, is this the kind of thing that you could do to a bow, or is this something that has to be more of a melee thing?
Bows aren't really. And he turns and there's just
Gotcha.
like all metalwork. He's like, they're not really my.
Fair enough.
If you can
Just
do it
give
with
him
a
a
bow,
sword.
I was just out of character. I was just thinking, like, you know, Callie, big damage dealer, probably be helpful.
I'll just make
honest-
sure I touch her wood every day.
Honest question: does Tosha have a like unenchanted metal weapon that this would be good on? Because you're the other like kind of melee-y person. I'm weird in like half the time doing one thing, half the time doing another, and I don't know who else would prefer to have a like.
I use the
magic
quarter
weapon.
staff as my main fighting weapon, so
Okay.
I think you're good to go. Probably you or Derek would have the weapon.
Yeah.
It's a wrench.
In that case, unless Derek, you have something you want to do, I will hand over Derek's elven rapier, the holy artifact that I have been given from the Church of God.
All right. So you take that, and the tier looks at this jar and says, "Okay, so this thing's still beating, which is fascinating. How long will it beat when I take it out of the jar? Is it like I took it out of a body, or is it going to stop immediately?"
Pretty much so. I presume. Like I have no idea. Hang on, I'll tell you what. There's still an eye in there. I'll pull an eye out.
You pull the eye out, and
Is it iris open?
The when you pull the eye out, it's like comes out of the liquid, and you can see even when it comes out, the iris like instinctively retracts a little bit as it comes out, and then kind of opens a little bit and starts to move slower and slower after a few seconds. It looks like it's more like you just plucked it out of somebody's head than like it magic on, magic off.
It looks like you pull it out of their body. Science.
Good.
And then I eat the eyeball.
Looks a little off-put, does not comment, reaches one hand in, and looks to you, Alar. You have your weapon at the ready? Follow me to the smithy. And he turns around and goes back to where he's got these other weapons laid out, sets it onto a table back there, and you can see as he sets the heart there, it's still beating, and it starts to slow down. And as it's starting to slow down, you can hear him kind of muttering something to himself. It sounds kind of similar to when Tosha or Mama casts a spell. And you can see the heart itself. He's got one hand just kind of held up over towards the heart while he's muttering, and then moves fairly quickly over to first where the weapon he just clenched was, pulls it out of the liquid and jams it into the heart. And he turns to you and he says, "Please." And he turns back and he takes an armful of these other, a spear, 2 short swords, and a long sword that he had. And he takes them and just jams each of them into the heart. This heart, as he's chanting and stabbing the weapons in, it actually starts beating faster and harder. Do you put your weapon in?
Yeah, I'll go for it.
You put your weapon in, and he holds one hand over the heart, and you can see he closes his eyes and opens them. And when he opens them, it's just like the fires of the Asher, that white fire kind of licking out of his eye sockets. It doesn't actually, Derek, you're particularly, you look at this and you're like, the hell's going on up there? And as you look closer, his eyeballs are gone. It's not that they're white, it's not that anything, they are gone, and it is just flame licking out from these hollow sockets. As he continues to chant, and you can see the heart with all of these weapons piercing it at odd angles, just sort of melts to the table, and there's a bright flash. And on your rapier, where Derek left a cheeky little maker's mark, you can see it glows with a blue frost.
Neat.
Your weapon is now frosted. You can activate it once per day. I'll write this up for you later. You can activate it once per day for the next 10 minutes. It will do an additional d6 of frost damage. It is considered magical.
Nice.
Nice.
Pokey stick of icing.
Nice.
When he comes out of that, when the forging is done, does he have eyeballs initially? Or does he always see
as soon as he comes out of it, he opens his eyes and normal eyeballs like any other dwarf.
So, real quick, you can see when there's no eyeballs in your sockets. Do you know
obscured
where I can get a level of script to research this for a side project I'm doing? And I kind of clang, 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 just for those who are not magically inclined to be able to still function. I can make people prosthetic arms now that work like a regular arm, sort of. Not really, don't worry, don't stare at it. And the next job seems to be eyes.
It is...
Can turn into Dororo's dad.
It is a bit of training that I received, some of it dealing with my family and some of it dealing with my blood specifically. I don't know if you can do that. I don't mean to say I don't know if you can make magical eyes. I just mean I don't know if you can do what you just saw.
I'm more interested in the vision than the connection to the upper deity allowing you to forge magical weaponry.
Uh, I'll be honest, I don't know why or how my eyes are replaced by fire. My father was the same, his father before him, my grandmother on that side as well.
Okay. Well, that is incredibly unhelpful. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I genuinely do. Thank you for all the information that the fire of life is somehow making blood from fire. I need to talk to Vernon about it. The fire of death is a whole bunch of the sacred oil that we have around here, so I need to make sure I grab some before I leave.
As you're
You can
going
always
down this list,
Tosha to make more.
Tosha, I was going to say Tosha and Callie come rolling up with the barrel.
Yay.
See, there goes my
And
plan for that too. I was going to tell Elena that she's got a charred priest with loose lips that told me about her dead friends, the Eyes, and if she's looking to replace him, I could recommend a guy who's really good with paperwork and get
wait,
Sasha a job.
why? What's going on with Elena?
Oh, Lord.
It's a long story. Are you sure you want to ask that question?
They were there when I made friends with Elena.
No.
I was not involved in whatever passed between you, and I thought it was a momentary thing, but anyway, I can get into that later. Datir, I have something in this barrel for you.
Great. Do you have more magical parts for me?
Well,
It is magical, but I need you to purify it. It was the armor of a priest that was in thrall to a demon of some kind. So it has powerful evil magic on it, from my understanding. And we just want to make sure it won't be used for evil means again, or draw anything evil of that kind toward us or anything like that. So just wanted you to take a look at it.
Yeah, I can let me do what I can. I certainly, if it is cursed or needs a simple blessing to remove whatever might be shrouding it in darkness, I'll do what I can.
Right. Yes. Any information that you have, if you're not able to cleanse it, would be helpful to us. And I'll hand over the barrel.
He cracks open the barrel and he takes a look and, oh my, these are
Yep.
are. One moment, and he steps away and grabs some tongs, and
Yep.
which he can get most of the pieces out, but the big maul, he's just sort of like grabs with tongs, and then he's kind of got like some smaller, they almost look like shears, but they have like a flat tongue like tip, and two hand trying to get it out to the table. Did any of you touch these?
No.
No.
No. No.
Well, let's see what we can be done about it. And he holds up one hand and kind of closes his eyes and opens them. And for the first time, Callie, well, I guess, Callie, you're the only person for whom this is the first time. Tosha, you've seen him enchant before. But he opens his eyes and he appears to have no eye sockets and simply white fire pouring out. As he casts Remove Curse, and as the magic kind of coalesces around it, there's a flash and a fizzle. And he's... I'll see what I can do with this. Is there a need for this for the church for this, or is this something I can work on over time?
Yes, feel free to work on it. Like I said, I have no use for it except for it being cleansed. But whatever you do find out, or if you're unable to cleanse it, please let me know, so that I can try to find some other means of dealing with it.
Tatir, after what you did with the ice troll's heart, this kind of enchanting isn't something I'm familiar with. Would these be of any use? And I pull out the Winter Wolf ice glands that we got when we fought the ice troll.
Oh, not to me. If you spoke with an herbalist, perhaps they could do something with it. I'm certain you could probably make a poison or a potion if you were so skilled.
No worries. I was wondering if they could do the same kind of thing an ice troll heart could. But
Still,
no
beating
worries.
heart of an ice troll is
Bit better.
more magically special, we'll say. Well, Goblin, did you give him your name? You did. Derek? Yes?
That's me.
This metal is dark steel.
Oh, well, that's convenient.
As in
The demon armor.
magically crafted. Supposed to be indestructible. We'll test that. But if you know the providence of this weapon and armor, that could lead you further down the path you're working on.
What does that mean? The origin, like where it came from, or like
If you know
who
where
made
this
it?
came from and who made it, or if you could find out, it sounds like they've done exactly what you're trying to do.
Do we want to try to keep a hold of the mole then? And leave the armor here and bring the mole with us for the...
I mean, either more, I'll be scrapping it into a gear.
Oh, I mean... Not a problem. It's not like we're using it as it is. I mean, I don't
Wait, if
know
it's already forged that way, then could I just reforge this into a gear shape?
No, because you asked if you could break this down before, and you were not able to do so with your
Right.
special thing.
Would Vernon perhaps have any knowledge of this sort of thing?
I should hope if he doesn't, I don't know who would.
Do we
Do
want
I
to bring
know
some of
Vernon?
it? Sorry.
You're familiar with the name.
Okay, because I spend a lot of time at that temple. So
Yeah, there is a formal smithy at the temple, and there are young elves that work there. Vernon is, we'll say, he manages. More of a foreman than a worker.
Interesting.
Up to you,
Can
Derek.
I'd like to take a piece, because best case scenario, Vernon might be able to do what I can't, reforge it into a shape that's more desirable.
Would there be something like I don't know what the full armor is. Is there something like a gauntlet or like a piece
there are,
of it?
There are gauntlets, there are greaves. You could take an epaulette.
These are great ones. What's an epaulette?
It's the thing on it's the
Pauldron.
Yeah, it means pauldron, but
Shoulder
the
band?
epaulette's it's the thing on like military uniforms where they have little dangly bits on them.
The power shoulder pads, yeah, you know.
Got it. Thank you. I was just asking for Colin.
Obviously. But yeah, he gives you a scrap. I don't know how much you would need to get reforged with this scrap, and he's got like a piece in the tongs that's like a pound, just like a plate. He's like, or a full greave would.
I'll take a look at the plans that was given to by the angel and see approximately what kind of size this gear is. Am I making one that's like this big or this?
It looks like it's maybe 2 pounds of steel. It's not very big at all.
I need about 3 pounds of steel.
Okay, passes you like basically the shin guards off of a greave, and he's like, "There you go."
Thanks.
Back in the
I have
barrel, I guess.
tongs.
yeah.
I have tongs. I think I also have like if it's not that big, I have a bag that we can shove those into that I'm using for, dangerous stuff. So we'll know what's in it.
So it's that, or put them in the jar of preserving.
I don't know about that.
Okay. Well,
Alright.
then, before we leave, I will poke him in the arm and just be like, "Wee!"
Hmm.
and cast a level 1 healing word to heal his little arm sear.
You cast it, and it doesn't seem to affect the wound. And he turns to you, and he's like, yeah, word to the wise. When you're using Essence of Life, you have to recover. There isn't magic that I know of that fixes it right away.
Any other small notes that you want to give me? What about...
I just
Can't
thought it's worth knowing.
recover
I'm sorry. Very few people
magically.
even understand what this is. I haven't had to explain it to anyone. Let me think. Key things: you can't recover very quickly. Takes about a week. If you need it for a very light, simple enchantment, just a little slash across the arm, thigh, leg will usually do you. And he looks down at kind of like the side of his where you can see he's working, no shirt, smith, working over the fire. You can see there's a nasty scar that looks still like fresh, like he probably got the scar like 3 days ago, and it's just starting to like mend closed. If you need a more powerful enchantment, it can take longer if it ever heals.
Gonna need to find more orphans.
Wah!
I would also just like to say to Datir, before we leave, while you're working on that armor, you might want to keep it somewhere guarded. Make sure no one can mess with it while you're trying to cast on it. It was involving some cultists, and we know that some of them could even be here in Bastion potentially. So I just want to make sure it's safe, and that that it should be kept secret from others around.
High Priest, I have no intention of keeping this in my smithy. There's something dark about this, and until we can solve it, I'm not keeping it here. It's going to be. I'm going to send it to the Pale Ritualists to keep an eye on it. They have, and you know this. They have a small gathering of dangerous items that basically people are not trusted around, or are not trusted around people.
Perfect. That sounds for the best.
So I will have these escorted away soon. I have a couple more pieces to finish. But rest assured, this will not get up and walk away of its own volition or otherwise. So, are we good with Datir? All right.
So.
You step away from the smithy here. Datir turns around and starts getting to work on another piece of equipment. As you set off to your evening, as it's been a rather eventful day in Bastion. We're going to pause there and pick up and find out what the party's going to do when you are leaving for the Temple of the Moon, and kind of figure out who you need to talk to and what you need to take care of while you're here in Bastion and going on. So thank you everybody who joined us for starting in on season 2. Looking forward to exploring more of Bastion, the Temple of the Moon, and the Frozen North. So thank you, everybody. We will see you again next weekend. Same Antosha time, same Derek channel.
Bye.